So it's really what we're trying to do is trying to give you a sense of how you find those first customers, because NFTs are very different to any other form of art products out there in the marketplace. And so there are some nuances that we need to bring to the fore to help you understand and to help you maximize your success in the NFT space.
We'll be talking about the history of NFTs, that success that Tim's just been talking about, having a strategic plan, and because NFTs are global, so you must have that strategic global plan, and the importance of Twitter.
And then we'll look at some ideas coming through in the future. So I guess just sort of start putting some context around the history. CryptoPunks, some of you may have heard of, and CryptoPunks are probably the best blue chip NFTs in the global marketplace at the moment. And CryptoPunks were given away for free in 2017. They were an experiment on the Ethereum blockchain. Now, literally back last month, this particular NFT on the right there was an offer of $9.6 million for it.
Shut your mouth.
No, it's insane, right?
Yeah.
But this is really, it's important part of cultural history for the crypto community, because CryptoPunks were one of the first, most recognized experiments on the Ethereum blockchain where NFTs, non-fungible tokens, which we went through in the previous webinar. So if you're not sure about NFTs, refer to the first webinar, which is on our on the Walking Between Worlds YouTube channel. Do go back to that and have a look. But it's culturally significant to people in the crypto community, and people recognize that there's a value to that.
As in the crypto culture.
In terms of crypto culture.
Yeah.
Now, there's another thing called Crypto Kitties, which launched in 2017 as well at the end. And this was a project that was the next stage on from CryptoPunks. And with Crypto Kitties, they were pictures of cats, as you can see literally on the screen in front of you. And you could actually breed those cats together. Each cat had a specific structure of its DNA. You could breed those cats together and then get another cat. It's a little bit crazy and silly, but the person behind Ethereum is a guy called Vitalik Buterin. Don't worry too much about necessarily who he is, but he had a passion for cats. So the idea is that members of the Ethereum community created this structure, in some ways a little bit of an homage to Vitalik Buterin.
And so that's part of that history.
It's all part of the history.
Yeah.
Now, these became so popular, the entire Ethereum network crashed in 2017. And the Genesis cats, the first cats that were ever minted as Crypto Kitties, they were selling for $100,000 within 6 weeks. It was crazy at the time. I mean, I was trading at this time. This was in 2017, so we're talking 4 years ago. So it was crazy times. But the important thing to understand is that NFTs came from the cryptocurrency space, because this will shape your entire marketing strategies, or your strategies that you are going to use for the foreseeable future. And that's why it's important you understand where the
that
NFTs.
History, because history is important in anything.
Yeah, for
anything
sure.
we do, because then you understand that where you are and where you're going to, based on that history.
Absolutely.
And where you fit in and how it all connects together.
Absolutely. So, I mean, at a very sort of superficial level, I mean, the cryptocurrency culture is based around blockchain and around the technology in a very similar way that I guess that Indigenous culture is based around 50,000 years of pure experience.
Of course. And that putting your handprint on the cave, an artist does a drawing on the cave to present a message, and that whole, and it's part of that knowledge sharing. And nobody can walk up and say, I was the artist who did that, when we all know that today nobody was the artist who did that. and we don't know who that artist was that did that original cave drawing.
Right.
Yeah.
So right.
And that's that history.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's that history. So it's there are lots and lots of parallels between the blockchain, the technology, and indeed Indigenous culture.
Yeah.
So it's funny how the different worlds are
connected.
Are connected.
Yeah, and the more we look at it, the more you can see how our Indigenous culture and this cryptocurrency space, like this whole cryptocurrency world, like those connections are just the overlay.
It's amazing.
It's amazing in the communities.
Yeah. So I just want to bring this up on the screen for you now. Hashtag WAGME. Now you might see this if you go on Twitter, which all of you will do by the end of this presentation. I can assure you. So
that's not about a dog wagging its tail.
No, it's very similar, but it reflects the culture of the NFT community. All right, and it's not about wagging the dogs. It is we're all going to make it. All right, you will see all sorts of things on Twitter that are all about community building, and this is really important to understand. And the key thing is, we're all going to make it if you understand the rules of the game. And that's what this whole webinar is about. Because the culture of NFTs is very, very different to anything you'll have probably experienced.
But see, that goes back to like Indigenous culture. We all, like the reason Indigenous culture has survived over 50,000 years is because of a system of law, LORE. People understood the rules of the game. It's
Same here.
Social relationships, social structures. That's what it's all
about.
It's
no different.
It's bringing that into another paradigm.
I guess it's the same but different, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, it is. It's the same but different.
The same but different.
Yeah.
So we're all going to make it. And I just want to sort of keep that in mind, because the whole of the project that we're looking at with Walking Between Worlds is about we're all going to make it as a community, not just individual people, as a community, as we'll see as time goes on. So the first thing you've got to do, absolutely, is create a strategic plan. Now that might sound a bit sort of, corporate or a bit sort of out of your range as to what a strategic plan is. But I think you've got to look into the future and just see where you want to go. Because if you don't have a target, you'll never hit it. And that's really important.
And that strategic plan, like we've said right from the beginning, is global. So you must think globally to grow locally.
And I think, that's the power of this market. It is a global market. It's not just, say, around the Cairns community or around Newcastle or around Sydney, whatever it might be. Or
Darwin or wherever.
Or Darwin or whatever. This is global. And there's 6.5 billion people on this planet?
Exactly.
It's a massive market. So NFTs are global and they are selling 24/7 in a very similar way to what's on Instagram or what might be on Etsy or what might be on other art platforms. It's 24/7.
So 24/7 is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yeah, 100%. Now, what you have to understand is succeeding in NFTs will not happen overnight. It's not that you're going to be a multimillionaire by a week on Tuesday. That's not going to happen. And you need to get that out of your head straight away. And it doesn't happen by magic. It's a lot of hard work and a lot of engagement and a lot of strategic thinking that we'll help you with during this webinar today. So the first thing you must do is you have got to spend between 30 and 50 hours researching. We can't do that for you. All we can do is give you the sort of plans and the ideas of what to look at.
Yeah.
The rest is up to you to do your homework.
So can I just say, researching isn't about just, something you do at uni or something you do at school. Research is much more than that. So how many times have you been, you've decided you're going to, say, to Brisbane for the weekend or you're going to Darwin for the weekend, and you look at what sort of festivals are coming up? That's research. You look at places to eat. That's research. You look at places, if you want to sell your art, you look at what markets are available where you can do where you can sell your art. That's research. So in this space, it's taking research to another level. It's about expanding your mind and what you're doing with your art. What is an NFT? What is the history of NFT? Take what we're saying here and go and look it up yourself so that you are actually familiar with the language, familiar with the processes, and then you come up with a plan and we work with you to get your piece.
It's very much, I mean, the reason why we're called Walking Between Worlds is there are so many areas that are completely unknown to lots of communities. For example, I understand the blockchain community incredibly well. I understand the Western world incredibly well. But I'm having the great pleasure of working with Vanessa, who's introducing me to the Indigenous world in terms of the culture of Indigenous culture, and I'm deeply respectful of that.
There's cultural nuances.
Yeah, there are cultural nuances that I'm beginning to learn and beginning to understand, but it's taken me time. And it's no different for you guys getting into the NFT space.
And also realising that there's the different layers of respect, because in Indigenous culture, we have different layers of respect, and it's not based on age. It's based on your place in the culture. Whereas in Western culture, it's quite often based on your age. And so it's explaining those too and sharing those and understanding that. So when we work with artists, we actually come with both of those understandings. And so when we say to you, spend 30 to 50 hours researching, we're asking you to do that so that you yourself are, you're aware of what is important for your work. You know what you're doing. You're not just coming, and we're not just saying to you, do this, do that. We want you to say to us, hey, this is what I found works for me. And we say, okay, well, this is what we can offer. Yeah. And that's how we come together and walk between worlds. Nicely
put. Right. So now this particular diagram might look a bit like school, back to your school days or something like that. But I just want you to understand from the adoption, from the way in which people are using NFTs, right? We are at the very beginning of a massive wave.
So this is this is like the whole world are early adopters, sorry.
Yes, absolutely. So the idea was, you can see, if I just put this back up again, you can see that there are innovators. Now in 2017, we saw the CryptoPunks and the CryptoKitties. Those were innovators at that 2.5%.
Yeah.
Where we are now, we are at the early adopting phase.
So that's all of us, all over the world.
Right across the globe.
This is where we are. So when you think about that in terms of where Indigenous people are, so we're not even on this page. Well, or probably back here behind the red. The interesting thing, I know you just put the green circle up there. So, and this is what I see, like I saw this thing on NITV, and I saw this person, Tim, and I'm pretty sure he was from Wiradjuri, and he was on Noongar country working with artists to develop, to help them put their works into NFTs. And I was watching it, and I could see gaps in what he was doing. And I thought to myself, now, after seeing what we do, and I thought, this young man and his team, it's fantastic. It's brilliant what he's doing. Absolutely. But I thought, there are gaps. And one of those gaps I saw was marketing. And, and this comes back to what we're seeing here about early innovators and early adapters. And, and you just put that circle up to late
majority it is.
Late majority.
Generally speaking, and I might be using the wrong language, so please forgive me if I am, but in general terms, because there's a massive digital divide between the Western world and traditional world, for a better way of saying it,
or indigenous cultures,
indigenous cultures, what you can often find is the technology actually gets used within indigenous communities a lot later than it would be under normal circumstances.
Or the opportunities are later.
Or perhaps the opportunities are later.
Yeah, and that's what we see here. Like when I look at this red one over here with the early adopters, and this is what I was saying, a lot of Indigenous people, whether you're Indigenous Australia or Indigenous Global, they're still not up there on that red. We as a community, we as a people, and we need to be up there on the red with the rest of the world.
And that's very much where Walking Between Worlds as the whole concept is about positioning Indigenous communities on a level playing field with everybody else on the planet.
Exactly.
So it's taking the what might be viewed as the normal stage of adopting technology with the green circle and putting it into the red circle. And we're here as a community to help guide the community to capitalise on this opportunity.
So that we move together, both Indigenous and non-Indigenous people move together.
Correct.
In this space.
So it is important to understand that. So the next thing I want to look at is very much you have to be able to identify who you think your customer is right now. Now, many of you may have already sold pieces, and if you sold pieces, that's fantastic. Hopefully, you've got an idea of who your customer is. Now, you might do it through a dealer or a gallery, or if there are dealers and galleries listening, you'll understand potentially who your customer is. But if you're on Twitter and that type of thing, you've got to identify who is your customer. For example, how old are they? Are they...
So if I'm an artist, from an artist perspective, and I want to sell my art, this is what I need to know. So who is my customer? Who is my target audience?
Exactly. How old are they? Are they 25? Are they married with kids? Are they retired? I mean, who knows? Only you will know your customers. What social status are they? Generally speaking, more mature people will have more disposable income to invest in art, for example. Yep. But it may well be there will be different styles of art that might appeal to younger people. Only you can tell. There's what particular groups of people might be motivated by your art, for example. I mean, are there? I know Germany, for example, is a big fan of Indigenous art, for example, right? So, is the German market an area you need to look at? So does that mean you search for people living in Berlin or Stuttgart or Munich or those sorts of things, for example?
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
I mean, and country. Sorry, that's
country.
Which country? So there's lots of money in the US, for example, and I know, for example, Steve Martin, the actor, Hollywood actor, is a big fan of Indigenous art. It's these types of things. Because if you don't know...
And that's part of your research.
That's part of your research.
Exactly.
You've just got to find this out. And imagining those customers are standing in front of you right now.
How would you sell it?
That's right.
What would you say?
What do they look like? What would you say to them? How do you talk to them? Because all the different customers that you're looking at, if they're a different age, if there's somebody of 20 and there's somebody of 75, the language they use will be different. The way they expect to deal with you will be different.
Oh, exactly. And
so this changes the way you have to communicate with them.
And also their cultural circles. Like they might not, and when we talk about cultural circles, we're not just talking about someone being Indigenous and non-Indigenous. We're talking about, they could come from a sporting culture. They could come from a religious culture.
Correct.
A sporting and religion culture combined. They could come from a food culture. We don't know. And so that's what they bring to the table. So when they're standing in front of us, like, what are we going to say? What are you going to say to them?
Absolutely.
How are you going to say, this is my piece of art, and how are you going to describe it in a way that they would like to purchase it, that they share your passion for your piece?
Absolutely. Now, you may well find over time, as you get more into the NFT marketplace, for example, that the customers change. You might find the person who you thought was your customer may not be your customer. You may have different people engaging with you for different reasons. So but you have to put it in the back of your mind, who is your customer?
And the online customer could be very different to the face-to-face customer.
There could be, absolutely.
Yeah.
Especially given NFTs is digital.
Exactly.
People who are going to be buying will be much more digitally native. They will understand how digital technology works.
So we use the word native is because, why do we use the word native?
It's really because, when you talk about digital native, it's about someone who's been brought up with technology. So they feel comfortable around the internet. They feel comfortable with Google. They feel comfortable with email. And it's just water off a duck's back. They use their mobile phone maybe 4, 5, 6, 7 hours a day, that sort of thing.
And so that's why we say digital native.
Digital native,
exactly.
Absolutely. So the one thing you have to understand, and this is really important, NFTs are democratizing the global art marketplace. And where this becomes particularly important is through, I want to just give you a bit of a case study of an artist that I have actually bought.
What do you mean by democratizing?
it's more the idea that it's freeing up the market. It's making it available to everybody, right? And it'll become a bit more apparent as we go through this case study.
Yeah. No, just it's good for our artists to know.
No, sure,
and
no,
how
of
it all
course.
fits together.
Absolutely, because this particular artist is an artist called I can never pronounce her full name. So if she, we are going to try and get her onto the webinar because I think she would be a great case study if we can get her on. It's Visithra, but she's called Visi. So she's Visi Arts, and I own about 10 of her pieces because I love her art. Now, she is based in Malaysia, but she's of Indian heritage. And what she has found in Malaysia, the art scene did not embrace her art. And she was selling in Thailand, in Vietnam, in the Philippines. But she was actually being discriminated against. I mean, it could even be, if I hate to use the word, but it could well be considered as racist. Okay? And so she was discriminated within the Malaysian art marketplace. But right now, she is the #1 selling Malaysian artist on OpenSea, which is an NFT marketplace that commands 92% of the marketplace.
And see, her biggest challenge would have been that she is a woman. You know, she is a woman of colour. And that we know is a challenge for all women.
100%.
And whether, all women of colour, Indigenous women included.
Yeah.
And that is a big challenge. And that discrimination, that racism, and overcoming it through her art and taking the step forward to do her own research.
I mean, I've got to know Visi quite well, and she's regularly sharing other artists' work. She's so accommodating. She's so supportive of other artists, and her case study should be an inspiration for anybody who is actually having doubts about whether their ability or no, I can't communicate with a global audience. You can.
Yes, you can.
You can. And this, Visi is a true example of somebody who's faced discrimination in her home country, for example, and has actually expanded to become the most successful selling artist on OpenSea for NFTs. So it's important that we put that context into the discussions, because it is very important to see that anybody can succeed, because WAGMI, we're all going to make it. Okay? So as a community, we're going to make it. So let's look at taking your first steps. This is really important. Twitter is not negotiable. So
this is your first step in that marketing space, and what you're going to do and how you're going to get there. So, and please don't take it on like this is all you have to focus on. The preference is for you to focus on your art, but at the same time, you need to know how to sell your art.
It's
in the NFT space.
No, and selling your art anywhere in general terms. I mean, first and foremost, all of you who are selling art are business people who happen to be an artist.
Exactly.
Whether you like it or not, your art is a product. Now, people love your product, and some people may not, but people love your product, and you have to sell your product. So you have to get onto Twitter yesterday. If you aren't on there, you will not be in this game. And we said before,
I have to tweet things all the time.
You will ultimately have to ultimately get involved in tweeting and sharing other people's work.
But before
supporting
all of
artists.
that, so what we're talking about here is more about getting onto the Twitter Spaces.
Well, it's Twitter in general, but Twitter Spaces, which we'll come on to in a second. But, Instagram is not enough anymore. Okay? Yeah. Instagram, don't get me wrong, Instagram's a great way to showcase your art, right? To show the visuals. The problem is all the buyers, because we're in the early adopting phase of the market, the early adopters are on Twitter. And 80 to 90% of all NFT activity happens on Twitter. It drives sales. And without sales, you don't pay the rent, you don't pay your mortgage, you don't live for canvas, you don't do whatever. Right? So it's vital to get onto Twitter. And you've got to understand through your research when I talk about crypto Twitter. There are people who've been on Twitter who are in the cryptocurrency space, which was the beginning of NFTs. There's a whole community around crypto Twitter, and they are the early buyers. And you have to understand that. And that's why it's non-negotiable. You have to get onto Twitter. And we've spoken about Twitter Spaces. Twitter has introduced a thing called Twitter Spaces, which some of you may have heard of a thing called Clubhouse, or perhaps you may not have done. These are audio channels whereby you can actually go into a space, and there might be 20, 50, 100, 300 people in these particular spaces, and people talk in those rooms. It's all linked to Twitter. And
then they give you an opportunity to ask questions.
You can ask questions, and you can then go up and you can showcase your work.
When we say go up, what that means is that you just put your hand up in the Twitter space and somebody says, would you like to come up here and speak? You're not physically going up there and speak. It's just a terminology.
It's all through your phone. It's all through your phone.
On the Twitter space.
All right. And I mean, personally, in promoting Walking Between Worlds, I've been aggressively in Twitter for the last 6 months, and I've been driving Twitter spaces. I've been moderating Twitter spaces, completely right in the epicenter of what's going on. Now, I mean, that's my domain. I know that area very well.
I've been in the Twitter spaces, and I'm still in the Twitter spaces, and I enjoy the Twitter spaces because the interesting thing is I've had conversations with people internationally who've asked me how Indigenous artists have come to terms with different government policies in Australia placed on Indigenous people. I was shocked when I got the first question because I didn't realise that information was going global. And so to have that conversation online and to answer it and say, well, listen, I can't speak for all Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander artists or all Indigenous artists, but what I can say is this about policy, and this is how it's impacted on our people, and this is how we're moving forward. And that was such a groundbreaking thing to do because people were interested. People wanted to hear. And see, that's part of the marketing.
Absolutely.
And it does. It gives people the history. And when you have history, then you move forward to purchasing.
Absolutely. I mean, just to sort of give you a bit of a wider perspective on this, through Twitter Spaces, I've connected to the Hopi Indians in Arizona, to the Inuits, Inuit communities in Canada, to Mayan communities in Guatemala. So there are plenty of people that through understanding Twitter, getting onto Twitter Spaces, understanding crypto Twitter.
First Nations people in America.
First Nations people in different countries.
Yep.
And it's, those First Nations people could be you. So it's important that you understand where this fits in. So in NFTs, you need to understand there are two 80-20 rules which I want to explain right now. And the first thing is, to be successful in NFTs, it's 80% marketing and 20% talent. Because it doesn't matter if you're the best artist in the world if nobody knows about you.
That's right. So you can be the greatest artist in your community, but unless people know about you globally, in the global community, in the global NFT community, then your art won't sell.
Absolutely. So it's about people that know you. Now, you may well be going via a dealer, and hopefully they're talking to you about Twitter and Twitter Spaces and those sorts of things, so that they can actually position you very strongly in within these markets if you don't want to do it yourself. But it's it's important that you understand the 80-20 rule, because if nobody knows about you, they can't buy from you, and that's the bottom line.
That's pretty much it,
right? Now, your art will resonate with some people, but not others. I mean, it takes time. I mean, I have bought pieces online, NFTs, that I've been referred to by other artists that I've bought. I mean, they've retweeted somebody else's art that's been put out there, and I've bought other pieces. But it takes time, because I may not like some of the style of a particular artist, or maybe it doesn't resonate with me, but there might be other pieces of art that I say, wow, that's incredible, and I can't wait to share it with other people and be proud to share it. Look, I've bought this magnificent piece from Visi, for example, that we mentioned, the Indian artist from Malaysia earlier. So it's vital to understand that the NFT space is 80% marketing and 20% talent. Yeah, the talent will get people looking at your art, but then they want to understand something about you. Who are you? How long have you been in the space? Are you supporting other artists? Are you helping the community? Are you putting back into the community?
Are you environmentally friendly?
Exactly, all these types of things.
Yeah.
Then there's the second 80-20 rule. When you're actually on Twitter, which is the primary source of driving sales, it's 80% engagement and 20% sales. Don't just go onto Twitter and say, here's my art, it's only going to cost you X, Y, Z. It won't work. Go onto the community, engage with other artists, say, I love your piece.
As in the NFT community.
Absolutely.
Yeah, the Twitter community.
Within the Twitter community, find out who the artists are, retweet their art. If somebody says, oh, here's my latest collection, what do you think? Give them a comment saying, I really like it, and you retweet it. Because every time you retweet somebody, that's when they've put a tweet up on Twitter, and then you click retweet, which puts it out to your audience. They will get notified that you've retweeted their art. And that's how you build engagement at the beginning level. I mean, obviously there are nuances to Twitter marketing like anything, but I just need to give you, or we need to give you, a sense of what you have to look at.
Yeah, and what to expect.
Absolutely. So you have to find your global tribe. All right, you've got to think outside of Australia, outside of Cairns, outside of Darwin, outside of Newcastle. You've got to think globally.
Right outside of the box.
Think of other people. I mean, I've connected with artists in Kenya whose work that I absolutely adore, and I've had conversations with those artists because the art appealed to me, and the people were sharing other people's art and that type of thing. The community is really friendly. You'd be surprised. Find people you have shared values with, you get on with, and who are supportive of you and you of them. That's really important. And absolutely share their work like they share yours.
Because it works like that. It's reciprocity. So, and in that respect in this space. So when you work together and share someone else's work, when you're ready to put your work out there, they will share yours. And have those conversations, and have those yarns, those discussions. Ask questions. Like I can tell you, I've asked them, I got onto one space I was on, and I just asked questions. That's all, because I just needed to know things. And nobody made me feel stupid. Nobody made me feel like I didn't know. I walked away feeling quite empowered, and I could tell they were empowered because they just shared knowledge. And that's what it's all about, that shared value, that shared knowledge.
It's engaging. It's like going into a room full of artists and you make friends.
Yep.
How would you do that? You start talking to them. You wouldn't start saying, oh, buy my piece right now. You'd say, oh, how are you? Who are you? Where are you from? What's your background?
Right. Yeah, it's
different.
about, like what we said before, about knowing your customer. Because your customer could also be your fellow artist.
100%.
You don't know.
100%.
Who are they? So always think of everybody as your fellow customer. It's almost like a golden rule.
Yeah, 100%. So it's all about being supportive. That's what in general terms, and putting back into the NFT community. Show people some of your techniques. I mean, they're not going to copy them, or I mean, they might be inspired by them, but they'll, the people love to understand. I mean, I'm not an artist. I mean, I'm creative as a person. But I'm not an artist. I mean, I've written and directed a feature film, which I'm very proud of, but I'm not an artist in terms of being able to put colours together and that type of thing. But, I love just seeing the way people create pieces of art. So if you're using something like Procreate, for example, you can do a time frame analysis where every 30 minutes or something it takes a snapshot of the art you're producing, so you can get a sort of a time-lapse photography of your piece.
That's right, and you can then turn that into a YouTube, something
it's a small video, and people
love
it.
Very simple, and then put it up onto your Instagram, onto your Twitter.
Yeah, and people love it.
People love it, and that's bringing it back to the community, your community. You create your own community. I, like Tim, I'm not a painter either, but I am also a creative, and so it's about bringing that back. And how can you create those pieces with those people with shared values?
100%. And this is where it comes down again. You just got to do your homework and your research. You've got to understand, just go onto Twitter, follow a few people, go into some Twitter spaces, just communicate with people and just get a sense of what people are talking about. Step
up. That's all you need to do. Like, I remember years ago with my grandmother, she said to me, she said, Vanessa, she said, you need to go. She said, and share our culture.
Can I just say, just in case you don't see the visuals, I've just seen Vanessa's finger pointing quite aggressively, and I can see my mother doing that to me, is that what your grandmother used to do to you?
That's what my grandmother used to do. She used to point that finger at me, and you know what, I had a conversation, I was on the point with JP once, and JP said to me, don't point your finger, and I went, my grandmother does that. Oh, and so learned behaviour.
I know.
Yes, it is. But it is, and when she encouraged me to go right out of my box, I went right out of my box. I went, right, I'm going. And that's what we all need to do, like step up and get out of the box, because you know what it does? It tells the next generation that it's okay. That it's okay to follow your dreams. It's okay to be creative. It's okay to be an artist. It's okay to create this community. It's okay to start creating a generational wealth. That's what it's telling your next generation.
Absolutely. So you've just got to get in there and experience it firsthand through your homework and research, and just get a sense of what's going on. And this is the key thing: you will be out of your comfort zone. You have to understand that.
Well and truly out of your comfort zone.
Yeah.
And there's nothing to be afraid of.
It's nothing to be afraid of, but it's only when you push yourself to through barriers, you learn a lot about yourself as a human being. So, you will be feeling uncomfortable initially out of your comfort zone, but once you've experienced it a few times, it'll be just like walking the dog or walking on the park or whatever it might be.
There's people like us that walking between worlds where you can send us an email or something and say, hey, what can you advise me on this? Can you, ask the questions. Get on the Twitter space.
Or even better, go into the Discord community for walking between worlds. Now, at the end, you'll be able to see where that is, because we're building up a community of people all supporting, getting behind the project and supporting the project.
So that we can answer the questions, so that we can support you 100%.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're not alone.
Absolutely. Now, this is the key thing that, in terms of understanding the NFT culture and community, because like Indigenous culture, the NFT culture and community is very different. And because it's come from the cryptocurrency space, there is this talk of a Lamborghini. Now, I know that can appear excessive and that type of thing, but I've been in the space since 2015, and all the time people are talking about, I've got to get my Lambo, Lamborghini, right? And what you find to reflect the true culture of the NFT community, people often say, I came for the Lambo, but I finished up with a van full of friends. Now, sorry, it's a bit of the picture is perhaps not the best picture, but it's the idea that people they're coming to the NFT space because they can see people are making money in it, right? But they're actually they're finishing up with a load of friends. And I've met some incredible people across the world that I would never have met without being in Twitter spaces, going to Twitter, this type of thing.
And can I just say, Tim, I'm only new to the space, and I've made a whole lot of friends in this space. People that I feel like I can ask the questions, I can have those discussions, and it's no one makes you feel like you're stupid or anything like that. People are so happy to engage and guide you, because you've got to remember, right, we come as Indigenous people, we already hold knowledge. We hold the oldest continuous knowledge in the world. We already hold knowledge. So we already have this wealth of knowledge inside of us. And it's about coming up to this Twitter space and saying, well, you know what, I've got my knowledge. And so let's do a little bit of a swap. I'll give you some of my knowledge and you give me some of your knowledge. How do we then collaborate in this space and walk between worlds and create that NFT culture and community together.
And I think it's one of the things. The thing is that the NFT space is so new for everybody.
Yeah.
That we're in that early. Remember that diagram from a little while ago, where we're early adopters. I mean, I've been in the cryptocurrency space since 2015, and I am learning new things every day. And artists coming in, new artists coming in, they are all in the same position as you. So that's why I finished up with a van full of friends, and we're all going to make it. You keep on hearing that. So, just go in there and explore and research.
Exactly.
So, in terms of the future, let's look at where NFTs are heading. There are many new marketplaces that are opening up. Coinbase, which is a major cryptocurrency exchange that's listed on the New York Stock Exchange, they announced they're putting together an NFT marketplace. And within 48 hours of announcing that, they had 2.1 million subscribers that want to join up. So people understand that NFTs are going to explode. New blockchains are getting behind NFTs. There are new. I mean, I don't want to get too deeply into the technical rabbit hole, but it's important you understand there's massive change going on. There are technological changes going on behind the scenes, which will open up NFT marketplaces even more, so people can move NFTs from one blockchain to another. Again, I don't want to get too heavily into that in the deep level, but there's just lots of technology that's going on that's going to change the whole market. And there's a thing called the metaverse. You may or may not have seen that Facebook has changed its name to Meta. And that's because of the metaverse. This is where everything is heading towards the digital environment, where through a thing called augmented reality and virtual reality, you can see the world in digital eyes. And this is going to explode even more. So we're all right at the very beginning of this explosive wave.
And so when you saw that, the bell-shaped curve with the innovator, that's what we're seeing. That's where we're seeing that explosion coming. And this is why we're saying, like we, with Walking Between Worlds, want to bring Indigenous people onto the platform with us,
Absolutely.
To walk with us.
To actually walk in this world, to have equal opportunities with other people.
Exactly.
And that's the objective. And so, with Walking Between Worlds, I mean, in general terms, the way that we've approached this, because there's a massive digital divide that exists in global Indigenous communities. And it's not just here in Australia. I mean, we're focusing on Australia to begin with, because that's obviously where we're based. And the idea is that we want to, once we've actually, created the structures to help the local Indigenous community here, we'll be making that technology available for other global Indigenous communities, so that we can actually...
we'll be encouraging collaborations.
Absolutely.
Artist collaborations.
We want to see a Native American fusion piece with an Aboriginal artist here.
Or Torres Strait Islander.
Or Torres Strait Islander. Or, a Mayan culture. I mean, it opens up the opportunity for so many interesting ideas. And I mean, the issue is, as we've seen before, that because of the digital divide, Indigenous communities are in danger of falling even further behind. And that's why we're proactively getting involved to help Indigenous communities actually capitalize on the NFT revolution. And so what we're doing, we're creating 4 pillars of empowerment with our overall mission to energize global Indigenous communities.
To capitalize on the NFT revolution, to expand the reach of First Nations, powerful voices.
Yeah, they're just so badly needed. I mean, the world's been in crisis for the last 2 years. And so we've got 4 pillars of empowerment. I mean, you can see those for yourself. The key thing is a collaboration engine to, for example, look at where a 2D artist in Germany might want to help a traditional artist, or an augmented reality artist, or other forms of collaboration can work within a structure that actually has a layer of financial transparency built in. Looking at education, enhancing digital skills to bring traditional artists that may paint with oil and canvas to enhance digital skills. Even in the metaverse that we were talking about, we're in discussion with various partners to build best-in-class galleries that can showcase Indigenous art in the best possible way, and bringing into the mix art investors that will actually support emerging talent. Now, there are lots of other ideas that we've got, but these are the 4 core pillars that we're working on. And it's very much, don't worry too much about where this is going to go, but we're building a community-based token, a community-based cryptocurrency token that rewards appropriate behavior that drives the mission that you've just seen directly above this last statement.
So ecosystem behavior isn't about like personal behavior. Okay, let's just be really clear. It's a terminology used in the cryptocurrency world.
So if somebody helps a traditional artist to improve their digital skills, we want to reward that. And it's about the community rewarding the community that helps power the community. So it's a community-based structure.
That's exactly right.
And so this is, don't worry too much about the roadmap, but other than we're launching 3 collections that will be coming out by the 31st of March. We will be looking for additional artists to get involved within collections 2 and 3.
We are looking for additional artists to get involved.
No, we are looking for additional artists to get involved.
Yes, please look us up and come and join us.
Yeah, and come and open up dialogue.
Yeah.
And then we're looking towards, creating the 4 pillars of empowerment to really ramp up the skills that everybody needs to bring people onto an equal footing with everybody else.
And to keep it sustainable.
Correct.
Yeah. So artists will be teaching artists.
Yeah. And so, we're launching the first collection on January the 14th. And absolutely, please follow us on Twitter, because you're all going to be on Twitter. So join us, and there's a Discord community we have, and there's the website at the bottom. Come and have a look at the website, and you'll get a feel for what we're doing. And connect with us on LinkedIn. On LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And we'll try and help wherever we can. But it's important that you really embrace this space. So the key takeaways.
NFTs are still early, but a massive wave building.
Get on Twitter yesterday, not tomorrow or in 3 weeks' time. Yesterday.
Do your homework and research 30 to 50 hours.
That's generally the length of time that you really need. And it's an investment of your time. It really is. And engage with the NFT community especially.
Yeah,
right?
Engage with the community.
Absolutely.
Let them know who you are. Bring your ideas forward. Bring your knowledge forward. Share your pieces of art.
And recognize this as a global market. It's not just your local market in Cairns, Darwin, Newcastle, Perth, Broome, wherever it might be.
No, this is global.
This is global. This is a massive opportunity. And you have to be prepared to come out of your comfort zones. Imagine your grandmother pointing her finger at you to say, if you want to actually
make change in this world, you need to step up.
Step up to your comfort zone.
Yep, and take the culture with you.
Absolutely. So, look, thank you very much. This is the body of the presentation. We will be taking questions directly after this, so please hang around.
Yes, please.
And, we'll be ready to take questions. So thank you very much. Connect with us, as you can see on the screen in front of you, and connect with us on LinkedIn by all means, and we'll be glad to try and help where we can and time permits.
And answer your questions, and let's empower Indigenous people globally.